first, live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
Hello, everyone. This is Fox 12 Now. Thanks for joining us today. We appreciate it. We are live streaming here every weekday, starting around 1 p.m., going throughout the afternoon, covering a wide range of topics. And a topic that is really on everybody's mind right now has to do with AI. It has been for a while. This isn't something brand new, but AI and all the different myriad ways that it is being utilized in so many aspects of our lives. And now it is also being used as a career advisor for students across the state. And we're going to be talking about that and how it works, how that happened, all right now with, well, for one hat from University of Oregon, Professor Ed Madison. And Ed, thank you very much for joining us here today. But I know that is not all you are. You have so many things that you do, including working in AI and this specific organization. I was hoping you could tell us about that.
Yeah, so in addition to being a professor in the School of Journalism and Communication and having affiliated faculty status in our College of Education, I'm also the executive director of the Journalistic Learning Initiative, which is an Oregon-based 501c3 nonprofit organization that works to infuse journalistic strategies across the curriculum. So I think that when people think about, journalism in high school, they think about the school newspaper or the yearbook. And that's great, but it only benefits maybe 25 to 30 students a year. What we do is we mainstream journalistic strategies into required English language arts classes, and we're pleased that we've benefited nearly 15,000 students in 17 states, and so that work continues. And this AI piece of it is an extension of that work, which I can tell you more about.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I think anything that encourages journalism and journalistic endeavors is great, especially given what I'm in. But, and helping these students to be more involved in that and find other ways to be involved in that, I think is a really great initiative. And I know there's a lot of things within that, but you mentioned the AI aspect. And so could you tell us, how AI enters into the conversation when it comes to what you're doing there?
Yeah, and let me clarify one thing, because I think it's easy to think that, okay, is our organization about cultivating the next generation of journalists? And it's not. I mean, if that's a byproduct of the work we do, that's great. But we believe wholeheartedly, and research confirms that the journalistic approach is something that benefits all kids, which is why, as I said before, we work to mainstream it so they all have access to it. How AI figures in, when people think about AI and they think about school right now, one of the big concerns is cheating and the fact that AI can often, hallucinate and give you incorrect answers. And we certainly don't want to raise a generation of kids that are dependent on technology to just basically write and express themselves. So the tools that we create, and our first one was called Murrow, named for Edward R. Murrow, the famous journalist who's focused on in the movie Good Night and Good Luck. For the younger folks who may not know who Edward R. Murrow was, is a tool. Murrow is a tool that engages with students, and it stimulates critical thinking, and it prompts them in ways that they write for themselves. So it doesn't do the work for them. It actually won't give them answers. And I can elaborate more on that, but that's generally what that initial tool does. And then we have variations of that tool that affect or can be used for other genres of writing. So feature writing, sports writing, broadcast writing. And in each case, the tools are designed to help students become better writers.
Interesting. And so looking at it from that aspect, you mentioned it there a little bit throughout what you were talking, but just to kind of clarify a little bit more, how do you find that balance between the utilization of AI and having it really be at your fingertips where it can write everything, but also, encouraging the students just to use it in a certain way to help foster their creativity or their endeavors?
Yeah, well, I mean, cheating has existed since the first day of any school. Kids used to write answers on their hands, or have all kinds of ingenious ways of cheating. I think that the point here is that yes, you can go to ChatGPT or one of the various other platforms and have work generated for you. Just using it in that way is easily detected, first off. And second of all, you're not really improving or learning your skills. So there is definitely a balance that has to be struck. We know that when people are learning new things, there's a sweet spot. If something is too challenging, they may turn away and say, "This is too hard, I can't do it." And if it's too easy, they get bored, and that also doesn't interest them at all. So, to answer your question specifically, how it works is, for example, for a lot of beginning writers, particularly utilizing a journalistic lens in writing, the blank screen, trying to figure out what even is a good topic to do a news story about is difficult for them. So a student who's a high school student can say, "Hey, I want to write about veterans," and the tool will say, "Okay, well, what about veterans? There are all kinds of different topics, and it'll prompt them to look at, how do you localize the topic? How do you look for voices that may not be that might be underrepresented? It'll help you develop questions if you're going to interview someone. Help you brainstorm about, whom might you interview on that topic." Again, it won't write them for you. It might give you two suggestions of questions, but it really prompts you to do it yourself. And then after you've done your interview and you've written a draft, you can upload your article, and it will tell you, suggest that, "Hey, have you thought about this? Maybe you've only got one side of the perspective represented here, or have you thought about that?" Again, it won't write it for the student, but it prompts them to think more critically about missing elements and how they can improve their own writing.
Interesting. So it's almost like giving a third-party perspective on what they're creating and giving them
Yes.
feedback on that.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, the truth of the matter is, we don't use the term, Common Core anymore, Common Core standards, because that term sort of got politicized. But the fact of the matter is that most of the country is still operating under the Common Core state standards. And the Common Core state standards very astutely made the realization that for most of the kind of writing we do as adults, it's not fiction based. It's great to learn about the classics and read, Great Gatsby and all those things. But, people are writing proposals. They're pitching, and they're writing more nonfiction. And so that was why there was this emphasis on, more nonfiction writing and reading.
Interesting. Well, tell us about, going to this career advisor side of things and utilizing AI in that aspect. What are some of I guess tell us about if you don't mind telling us about the program to start off with.
Yeah, sure. So we developed in partnership with ODE, a platform called Sassy, which is short for Sasquatch, Bigfoot fame here in the Pacific Northwest. And what it does is it engages with students, or students can engage with it rather, to explore different career opportunities. So, for example, a student can say, as many young teenage boys do, "Hey, I love video games. What can I do with that?" And it'll tell them that these are the different types of job titles in the arena of video game design, development, and with different strata of different things are. It'll tell them this is what you can expect to make in these positions. It'll tell them that, hey, that Oregon State University or your community college actually offers classes in this area. They can actually find out about potential internships, potential employment opportunities. And then what I love about this particular tool that we built is it's a whole 360-degree look at this perspective, in the sense that it'll help the student prepare to find internships or potentially mentors. It'll help them prepare for their job interview and think and contemplate the kind of questions they might be asked. It'll also help them in how to follow up after the interview, and it'll also help them stay motivated during the whole process. So it's a whole 360-degree perspective of the quite intimidating. I mean, even for my undergraduates, who are about to, complete their formal schooling and embark on their careers, it can be quite intimidating to sit across from a prospective employer and talk about how you might be a fit for their organization. So it helps them, supports them in all those ways.
Yeah, very different and experience from being in school, no matter how prepared you are to go out into the real world and have that kind of interaction maybe you haven't had before. So I think that's great to help them prepare for that. So giving them those tools. I guess let me ask this, having been able to give these students, this tool and this way to maybe fine tune and utilize some of the things that this can provide, have you heard any feedback from students who have utilized it and gone on into the workspace so far?
Yeah, well, the tool was made available at the beginning of this academic year in September, so it hasn't,
Brand new.
hasn't really been around long enough for us to kind of measure to what degree. But we are checking in with our various teachers and sites and things like that, and we hear from the teachers who are observing their students and from the students, some of them directly, about the benefits and how, for many of them, it's really sort of taking some of the stress out of the process of thinking about what do you want to be when you grow up. Everybody asks that question, but it can be a very intimidating question.
Yeah, and to understand, all the different facets, like you mentioned just at the beginning of this, putting in video games. There's so many different, various careers that you could have within that industry. So giving them that knowledge and that idea of maybe things they didn't even think about, I think is really great, and that can help out for so many things. Where do you see this? Obviously, this program, just launched, so I'm sure there's still a lot of feedback coming in. Where do you see something like this going? I mean, now that it has been adopted in Oregon, could you see this being adopted other places as well?
Oh yeah, I mean it's our intent. So like I said, a lot of the work that we do is in 17 different states, with some of our other programs. So I can see it being adopted more broadly. I think it's also so there's an opportunity to look at other populations. And excuse my dog, I'm going to go. Okay.
That's okay. Dogs are always welcome on the show.
Yeah. Okay. But no. But if you think about it, we've got. Subgroups within our population that may have some challenges when it comes to entering the workforce. Like, for example, young people who may have been incarcerated or, face some, Justice Department issues, and they've got a gap in their, in their work history, and they've got to, articulate, how do I explain that without, having it reflect poorly on my prospects. So thinking about that, thinking about veterans, thinking about all different types. What's wonderful about this AI tool is, I guess the best way to describe it is that you can go to a various 5 or 6 different websites that have been created by the state of Oregon, and find all different kinds of resources, but you got to hunt and find and put it all together. But when we train the AI on those resources, it allows you to engage with it almost like you were sitting down with a counselor. You can say, here's what I need, and it'll go and find all those different things and bring it back to you in a palatable way that you can actually make use of. And I think that's probably one of the best ways to describe, what the power of it is. What will change? Who knows? I mean, AI is changing so rapidly. I'm sure there'll be like maybe avatar or associated with it. And we've already got, voice interaction, not on this particular tool, but on some of the OpenAI tools that have come out. Maybe there'll be a hologram, that appears in your living room and walks you through it. I have no idea
Yeah.
where all that's going, but we can expect that it'll become easier and better, and better.
I mean, that's the thing with like the way that the iterations of AI completely rapidly advanced, so quickly. Who knows? Yeah, maybe we will have a hologram. I will say this though, if you can redesign the state of Oregon's business website, that would be amazing. Just funnel all that in there. There's so many confusing things.
Above my pay grade.
Just have the AI do it. But yeah, really interesting use case of this, and really fascinating just the way that you're incorporating AI. And for a lot of people that were maybe that term maybe a little bit scary because they think of some of the ways that it could be utilized. But this sounds like a great way, to incorporate this in and help out these students. Anything else, and more people beyond that, anything else that you think is really important for people to know just about this particular project, the advisor project, but then also everything else that you're doing there with your organization?
Yeah, the other thing I want to say about it is that, unless we've got a state that is, a high concentration of the population is where you are in the Portland area. And so if you're a kid in a rural community, you don't have the immediate access to just internships, field trips, all that stuff sort of becomes more difficult. So I think through tools like the Sassy AI, and also through the work that we do in classrooms through JLI, we're in a sense opening a window for these young people to see beyond, just their immediate community. And I think that's really important and valuable.
I think one last question, just a technical question. Where is it sourcing the information from, or as far as the platform that it's built on?
Yeah, so we work in partnership with a company called PlayLab AI. These are brilliant computer science people out of MIT, who I fortuitously met at a conference about a year ago and partnered with. And so the underlying platform is through them. And then what it's sourcing is documents that have been that are either in pamphlet form or exist on various websites that have been created by ODE, the Oregon Department of Education, Employment Service Predictions, just different just agencies that not only give indicators of what positions and career fields are growth and which ones are in decline and what do people get paid for those things and all that. It's also sourcing community colleges throughout the entire state and universities to see what courses may align with the various areas of interest that students have.
Wow, really cool. Well, thank you very much for joining us, just to talk about it and explain it to everybody. I mean, really interesting work, and I'm really curious to see where it goes too. I want to see that hologram.
And I have to really express a word of thanks to Oregon Department of Education and also Southern Oregon Education Service District for being forward thinking. To my knowledge, we're the first state to adopt something like this, and we're just really proud to be, just part of doing good work for our students.
Yeah, and at the forefront of this as well, as you mentioned, the first one. Well, thank you very much, Professor. Really appreciate your time.
Sure. Thank you.
And for everybody watching, this is Fox 12 Now. We're live. We're going to take a break. I just wanted to wrap up and say, don't forget, you can check us out on our YouTube channel at kptv.com under the Fox 12 Now tab, and of course on the Fox 12 Oregon apps. And we get to have these longer form discussions like this, and segments and interviews like we just had, where we get to find out more information. And really appreciate all of you joining us. So go check out those sites and take a look through. We cover a wide range of things, but I'll be back at 1:30. I'm Craig.